This is a pretty complicated subject, eh? Haddad announces being stopped by military police officers with rifles at his doorstep. Today, Fernando Haddad gave an interview because here's the thing. Yesterday, he was at an event at Lago São Francisco, an event hosted by the Brazilian Bar Association. Lago São Francisco is in downtown São Paulo, right? At the USP Law School, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's really at USP. So Haddad took part in this event, and then went home. He lives in the south zone of Sao Paulo, and he has a driver who drives for him, right? During the campaign, it's obviously not Haddad himself who's going to drive the car. And then, according to what he said, thank you Ana Rosa for the gift, and Alcione too, thanks. So, according to what he said, when he was on his way home, a military police car stopped them, pulled over. They shined the spotlight, that flashlight they have in their hands, that strong flashlight. They shined that strong flashlight inside the car. Haddad stayed quiet, he thought. Maybe it's just a routine stop, right? The police are patrolling and thought the car looked suspicious. That's fine. But they didn't ask for any documents, they didn't ask for anything. They saw that Haddad was inside the car and kept following the car. They didn't tell them to stop. They didn't ask the driver for any documents. They didn't ask for the car's documents, nothing. They just kept following. Then the driver took Haddad home, stopped there, Haddad got out, went inside, and the driver left. And the police kept chasing Haddad's driver for 40 minutes. The police car chased the car Haddad was in. First with Haddad inside, then after Haddad was already home and the driver was alone. The driver got scared, got worried. He went into a hotel, parked in the hotel parking lot, and got out to talk to the police officers. Like, what do you want? Why are you following me like this? The police officers just told him, get out of here. They didn't ask for his ID, they didn't stop him. So what is this? This is intimidation. This is something a militia member would do. And it is. Who would have thought that who would have thought, right? A guy from Rio running São Paulo, the militia infiltrating the São Paulo police. Who could have imagined something like that? But that's what happened, right? With the attitude of militia police officers intimidating Haddad, intimidating the driver, who's really worried. The driver is afraid for his own safety, because this kind of thing isn't normal, really, right? And then Haddad reported this, right? He reported it today. Tarcísio de Freitas was questioned about it, right? Obviously, because this can't happen under any circumstances. And he's the commander-in-chief of the military police. And then he came up with this. Tarcísio orders the military police to identify the patrol car after Haddad reported being followed in Sao Paulo. That's the least you could do, right, Tarcísio? The least is to order the patrol car to be identified and to find out what happened, right? Because this kind of thing is pure and simple intimidation, and it definitely can't happen. It can't happen, right? And now we'll see how this story unfolds. Because it's easy using the patrol car tracker to identify which patrol car was near Haddad's house at that time, around 10:30 at night, more or less, which is the time Haddad mentioned. So it's possible to identify the police officers through the patrol car tracker. And then, yes, he should be questioned. Why did you do this? Because that's a cop who supports Tarcísio trying to show off. Obviously, I don't even think it was an order from Tarcísio, something like that. I can't imagine that happening, at least not for now, right? If it were Bolsonaro, I could even imagine that happening. Tarcísio, for now, not yet, right? But who knows? And then, the Secretary of Public Security also said that he's going to investigate, that this can't happen. Anyway, it's really strange, it's pretty weird, and it's quite worrying, actually. For the safety of Fernando Haddad himself, who is a candidate for governor of Sao Paulo, and his campaign needs to go smoothly. He has to keep things moving. He needs to have peace of mind to run his campaign and not have to deal with this kind of intimidation, which is really absurd. Brazil's Supreme Court orders judges to return extra payments for salaries above the ceiling. Look, here's the thing. There are 7 state courts, 7 different states. Let me see if this article mentions which 7 states they are. But there are 7 different states here. Cuiabá, Goiás, Maranhão, Paraná, Rio de Janeiro, Rio Grande do Norte, Rondônia, and the Federal District. These state courts were paying extra allowances, but way above the ceiling. It's not just above the ceiling, it's way above the ceiling. For example, there was a judge, if I'm not mistaken, from Rondônia, who received 3,200,000 reais. And keep in mind, this is a retired judge, not even active. He received salaries and extra allowances that add up to 3,200,000 reais. And then who did it end up with? It ended up with Shandao, right? Alexander de Moraes. And then he looked at it and said, this is really absurd. And he did something that had never happened before. He ordered the money to be returned. Because before, all the decisions were like, hey, stop paying, simple. But now it's not just stop paying. Now it's stop paying and give back what you received. This is the first time this has happened, right? So little by little, we are bringing some integrity to this situation, right? And then there are other cases. Look, a judge in Brazil earns on average 1 million per year, and 9 out of 10 go over the cap. So 1 million per year is about 88,000 per month. 88,000 reais per month. Okay. The ceiling is 46,000. Then they add all sorts of extras, a bunch of extras. So the person ends up making this absurd amount, 1 million per year. That's on average, okay? On average. Because there are some exceptional cases where the person gets 500,000 in a month, 700,000 in a month. And this case we mentioned where the person received 3,200,000 reais of public money. It's a scandal. It's absurd. Anyway, check out this news here, folks. Personal insurance is up 9 point something percent in the first 5 months of 2026. This is Brazil in crisis. Yeah, Brazil in crisis, going bankrupt, right? Going down the drain. So the number of insurance policies is increasing. Why is the number of insurance policies increasing? Because people have more money. And if they have more money in their pockets, they're going to spend more, right? On various things, including life insurance. And they're getting more life insurance than they were in the past, right? Look, let's go. There's more here. There's more super chat for us to show here. Let's see. Here is Carla Pacifico sending a gift. My contribution. Thank you, dear. She's another one who's always here. Carla Pacifico is always here. Always being part of the work we do, right? That's really cool too. Quintino Soares Santana. Michelle promoted her brother for the Senate and should show up as a surprise as Rachadinha's running mate. Lula, here in São Bernardo do Campo, on August 16th, 2026. Isn't the brother going to be the alternate? Because until now, she was nominated at the convention as a candidate for the Senate, right? And the running mate has already been announced, which is Alfredo Gaspar. Can it be changed? It still can. There's time until the 15th. But nothing indicates it's going in that direction. At least for now, there's nothing indicating that, right? So let's wait, Quintino. Zaris Zarif Siman. Ricardo, I don't trust Tarcísio. Haddad should watch out. I completely agree. You can't trust someone who uses the military police to intimidate his opponent, uses the power he has, which isn't small, right? To be able to intimidate a political opponent who is really the only one threatening Tarcísio's re-election, because there are really only two candidates in São Paulo. In fact, the first debate only had the two of them, right? Because there isn't any other strong candidate running for governor of the state of São Paulo. The ones who were running have withdrawn their candidacies. They decided to run for Congress and won't get involved in this. So it's just Haddad, Tarcísio, and a bunch of minor candidates who don't even factor into the vote. They don't even show up in the poll percentages. They're so insignificant.